This chart shows Poland's defence spending as a share of its GDP. At 4.1%, Poland is arming itself at a rate that's eclipsed the NATO benchmark of 2%, and it's set to climb even higher. This year, Warsaw wants to push that figure to 4.7%, translating to an overall defence budget of $35 billion. If successful, it will place Poland as the most heavily militarised state in Europe, second only to the United States in relative defence spending. Its most recent purchases include 32 state-of-the-art F-35 jet fighters, 96 Apache helicopters, 1,300 M1 Abrams and K2 Panther tanks, 500 HIMARS, 290 Chunmo launchers, 670 self-propelled K9 howitzers, and $4.8 billion worth of Patriot surface-to-air missiles. Moreover, Warsaw wants to expand its armed forces to 300,000 personnel, which would give it the largest standing army on the continent and the third largest in NATO. Understandably, defence budgets tend to increase the closer we get to Russia. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Finland all allocate well above NATO's threshold of 2%, whilst those further out spend much less. But Warsaw's military expansion goes beyond just NATO obligations. Slowly but surely, Poland is emerging as an armed fortress in Eastern Europe, and frankly it has no choice. Facing a hostile Russia to the east and an increasingly isolationist America under President Trump, NATO is no longer the bastion of stability it used to be. If war breaks out following Ukraine, Poland will be the front line, and Warsaw understands this better than anybody. So, si vi pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. But does Poland have what it takes to shape itself into a military power? Centuries ago, Poland had one of Europe's most commanding empires. So will the White Eagle soar again, or will it fly too close to the sun? For starters, geography has not been kind to Poland. Situated on the North European plain, its flat terrain and lack of natural barriers has always caught the eye of invaders. Austrians, Prussians, Ottomans and Russians have all stepped foot in Poland. What this means is that the country's borders have frequently shifted over the centuries. The last major revision occurred following World War II when Joseph Stalin annexed the country's eastern portion, whilst compensating Warsaw with conquered German territories in the north and west, effectively moving the country 200 kilometers westward. But today, Poland's greatest geographic vulnerability sits on its northern border. A small Russian exclave seized from Germany following World War II, Kaliningrad is like the rook on Moscow's chessboard. Armed with nuclear warheads, S-400 surface-to-air missiles, jet fighters, and Russia's entire Baltic fleet, tiny Kaliningrad packs more firepower than some medium-sized countries. Wedged deep inside NATO territory, its location grants Moscow a powerful anti-access area denial zone over the Baltics, allowing it to cripple Western reinforcements during a wartime scenario. Slightly to the east of Kaliningrad is the Suwałki Gap, a 100-kilometer corridor forming Poland's border with Lithuania. This small stretch of land is NATO's Achilles heel. If successfully seized by Russia, it would sever the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia from the rest of mainland Europe, leaving them isolated and encircled by Russian-controlled territory on all sides. Taking the Suwałki Gap would also create a land bridge between Kaliningrad and Russia's de facto protectorate in Belarus, which Moscow could use to resupply its navy in the Baltic Sea. Such an event would trigger NATO's Article 5, the defense provision that would drag all members of the alliance, including the United States, into a direct confrontation with Russia. But how far is NATO really willing to go? Would the alliance really risk nuclear war over a stretch of sparsely populated farmland few even know exists? These are the exact kind of waters that Moscow seems willing to test. Now, with Trump in the White House, Europe can no longer assume that America will be on its side when push comes to shove. Warsaw is no stranger to this reality. In 1939, the Allied powers guaranteed Poland its sovereignty, only to let it be swallowed up as a Soviet satellite following World War II. Under Stalin, tens of thousands amongst the Polish authorities and police force were rounded up and exterminated, and some 1.5 million Poles were deported into Siberia and Central Asia. To add insult to injury, the Polish legions who fought alongside the Allied powers were excluded from the victory parade in London. Once again, the wolf is at the door in Europe, and Warsaw is determined not to be fooled again. Of course, nothing worth having comes easy. In 2021, a classified wargame exercise known as Winter 20 indicated that Poland would lose a war with Russia in just 5 days. So now, things had to get serious. To offset its geographic weaknesses, Poland has invested heavily in modern defense fortifications. The East Shield program, valued at $2.6 billion, aims to reinforce Poland's 700-kilometer border with Belarus and Russia. It includes anti-tank ditches, bunkers, AI-powered surveillance, and electronic warfare capabilities. The It's considered by many to be the most significant reinforcement of NATO's eastern flank since the Cold War. Meanwhile, Warsaw's also signed a $5 billion deal with British firm MBDA to rewire its surface-to-air batteries with next-generation CAM missiles. The project's taken a note from Ukraine, where a strong network of air defences has allowed Kiev to contest the skies against a superior Russian air force. Warsaw also wants to diversify its arms shipments away from the United States. So, in addition to the $60 billion worth of American-made equipment, Poland has signed contracts with South Korean defence firm Hanwha Aerospace. Amongst the shipments are up to 1,000 K2 Black Panther battle tanks, 670 K9 howitzers, and 48 T-50 Golden Eagle jet fighters. Altogether, the deal could be valued at over $16 billion, making it by far South Korea's biggest export of weapons. But all is not what it seems. Warsaw's committing to long-term defense spending at a historic rate. Many of the big-ticket items, such as F-35s and Apache helicopters, carry hidden long-term costs that haven't yet been accounted for. With elections around the corner and tightening fiscal policies within the European Union, Poland could soon face problems sustaining its military ambitions. Meanwhile, the same traits that make Poland a NATO asset also make it a liability. Warsaw has repeatedly clashed with Brussels over judicial reforms, which has led to fines totaling more than $300 million. Other European states have also raised concerns over Poland's civil liberties and rule of law, so whilst its military buildup is commendable, Poland is unable to reshape the narrative. Its government is consistently vilified in Western media. Many argue that Warsaw's aggressive military posturing has more to do with political gain than securing the freedom of its citizens. After all, security policy often wins votes during wartime. Yet, paradoxically, Warsaw's entire strategy still leans heavily on American support. Washington still has 10,000 troops stationed on Polish soil, and these people aren't going anywhere. But this reliance undermines Warsaw's ability to project independent power. Put simply, great powers don't host the armies of other great powers, nor do they depend on them for defense. You can't really expect to be one of the greats whilst playing host to others. Having said all that, Poland may not have that many options. Its geography leaves it vulnerable, and the best way to ensure its security is by forging alliances. But should it wish to tip the balance of power, Poland will have to reconsider how it deals with the United States and Europe as a whole. Yet it's precisely this prospect that unsettles friends and foes alike. If Warsaw succeeds here, it could upend Europe's hierarchy of power as we know it. But should it overplay its hand, like Turkey, it risks becoming a pariah in the eyes of NATO. After all, even the devil was once an angel. I hope you managed to learn a thing or two from this video. A lot of effort goes into making them, and if you haven't yet subscribed, now would be a good time to do so. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.